I'm Karen from Close to My Heart, and today, as you've seen on the blog, we have some amazing stamps and thin cuts to show you. And I thought I'd walk you through a few of them and show you how to use them and different ways that you can use them. So let's start out by taking a look at our Isabella card making stamp and thin cut bundle. Here in front of me, you will see some beautiful artwork. Two of them are from the catalog, so if we turned in our catalog to page 18, you would see two of these cards that you see here. This one is one that we created today for you to take a look at on the blog. And each of them use this stamp and thin cut, which is what we call our dies, bundle just a little bit differently. So let's take a look at each of them close up, and then I'm going to show you a few cool things about each way that they've been used. So we'll take a look close up first at this love card. You're probably taking a look at this gorgeous word love, and you can see that there's some tone-on-tone stamping going there. In fact, you might have been a little bit fooled and thought that that was a piece of paper that was printed. That was actually stamped and die cut out. Now, if we take a look at this one right here that says thinking of you, we've done the exact same thing with the word you using a different background. So you can see two different looks you can get by using this die cut bundle. On this third card, we've cut out both words, love, you, and created a shadow as well as a little bit of tone-on-tone stamping on that card. Now let's head back over and take a look at this stamp and thin cut bundle so that you can see how well they work together. Our stamp and thin cut bundles come together, and when you pull them out of the envelope, you will have a few different things in front of you. First is a carrier sheet full of stamps. And this set of stamps is really unique in that it's got all kinds of small sentiments and words that work together, as well as a few icon stamps that are great as accents. Then over here on the side, we've given you three different background stamps. So I'm going to move those so you can see them a little closer. And as you take a look at these backgrounds, you'll be able to see how we've worked them into these cards. So let's take a look close at these few little backgrounds here. We've got one that almost looks like a gorgeous piece of tile from maybe Italy, one that's a very organic looking polka dot, and one that is a really pretty floral pattern. Now, if I bring in the cards that we looked at before, you can see that the word you was stamped with the tile background, whereas the word love was stamped with the floral, and this love you was actually stamped with these polka dots here. Now let's move back over to my workspace, and you can see me put this into action. In this set, along with the stamps that we just looked at, you receive a couple of dies. Quite often dies fit right onto a stamp. For instance, you can see that these two dies at the bottom fit these two floral stamps right here. They fit together exactly. But the love you and this banner are a little bit different. They are made to be able to use with either these background stamps or to fit words in. So we're going to use the word love to start with. You'll notice that our dies come on these wonderful magnetic sheets so that you don't ever lose a die. They just stick perfectly and you can just put them right back on when you're done. I'm going to bring in our awesome Close to My Heart die cutting machine and a little bit of paper. I'll bring in our Close to My Heart cutting mat and platform that go great with our machine, and we'll run this right through our machine. And it's going to cut us a really great die of the word love. Pull that right out. And you'll be able to see here, just get this out of everybody's way so that you can see a few fun things about these dies. We'll just pop right there the letter V out, and a couple of them are still right here on our mat, the L and the O, and you could stamp those letters now that they are cut out. You could stamp them with all the different backgrounds or each with the same. So let me just give you a quick little demonstration here of that. Let's grab a piece of foam that comes in our stamp sets, and one of our acrylic blocks, and let's grab our polka dot background. And let's just quickly stamp a couple of these letters. We'll use a bluebird pad. I'm going to season my stamp. You can do that on your hand or your arm, or even by just inking it and continuing to ink and stamp it off until you get a great image. You just want to get that shiny finish off the stamp. And I'm just going to stamp that V and E together right there. And you can see how I've gotten a really great polka dot background. Let me move this over where you can see that even better. Now that you've seen that you can die cut them and then stamp them, let's move back over to my work area and let me show you how you could actually take your paper, create a nice background just by stamping directly right on the paper before you die cut it. And then you could lay your die on and cut it that way. So you have lots of options of ways that you can create those backgrounds and cut those letters to spell whatever you want. You could even use them to spell other words because each letter comes out of the die separately. Now you've seen the cards that we created both for the catalog and for the blog today. And now that you've seen how these work, you can see how we've created this beautiful art. Just a moment ago, you saw me show you some of the fun features of the Isabella card making stamp and thin cut bundle and different ways that you can use it. Now let's take a moment and talk a little bit about the Isabella scrapbooking stamp set and thin cut bundle. Again, I have a couple of pieces of art right here in front of me. This one is from our catalog, and this one is one of the pieces of art you're seeing on our blog today. Now let's take a look at that catalog artwork. For those of you who have a catalog, all you need to do is take a peek at page 19 in your book, and you can see this beautiful 12 by 12 page. The reason I'm pointing this out to you, as well as what you saw today, is we've used this stamp set and thin cut bundle in two different ways. So I'm going to move this over to our close-up camera again so that you can see some of these details close up. Now if you look here at the catalog, you can see that we always put a little shadow behind any of the stamps that have dies that go with them. And you might be noticing something really interesting about this set. There's a single flower here that actually is the same exact size and flower as the flower in that cluster. This flower is also the same exact size and shape as this flower in this cluster here. And then we have a couple that are single, like the lemon and the leaf that you can continue to add. Now there are a couple of ways that you can use those. In this piece of art here, you can see that we have used this cluster that includes the stamp that also has a single die to go with it. And then we've cut that out and layered it here. So you can create all kinds of beautiful clusters and floral bouquets and lemons by using them separately. But the reason they're the exact same size and the exact same shape are so that you can do what you see happening on this beautiful 8.5 by 11 page. I'm going to move it just a little bit so you can see the dimension. So you can see that this cluster here, we've put this on a little bit of foam tape, and then we've added another piece of foam tape so that this die can actually lay right on top of the flower that it fits on top of and add even more dimension. The same is happening here with this flower. So let's go back where you can see a little bit further out, and I'm going to show you exactly what I mean. Now you saw me do a little die cutting on the last stamp set, so I've already die cut each of those die cut pieces and stamped them so that you can see them right here in front of me. And I was just going to show you quickly how that works. So this flower is the same as this one and can layer right on top to create even more dimension. And if you use a little bit of 3D foam tape, you can really give it a nice shadow and it fits together perfectly. The same is true of what you see happening here. This flower in this cluster and this single flower fit together so that you can create that dimension we were just talking about. So if I bring this back in, you can now see that in action. with each of those clusters. And you can see how with this cluster, not only did we take a cluster of flowers and lemons and add that flower, but we also added in some of the single dies to go with it, even cut a few of the leaves and worked those in. So this stamp set and thin cut bundle work together so beautifully to be able to create lots of options in your art. Now, if we look at the stamp set, you can see it looks like it did in the catalog, and then here are the dies. Both clusters of flowers, plus that single leaf and the lemon with a leaf, and then the two flowers that layer. So there was a lot of thought that went into this to make it so versatile and so beautiful. So I hope that gave you some fun ideas of ways that you can use the Isabella Scrapbooking Stamp Set and Thin Cut Bundle. Not only do we have beautiful stamp and thin cut bundles that coordinate like I've shown you, we also have thin cuts dies that we like to call stand alone. And I'm going to pull this one out of its packaging because I want to be able to show you some of the cool features that it has. Let's go look at it a little bit more close up. Now you can see as we're looking at it that there are pieces that are going to cut right out. You might be noticing these large butterflies and wondering how those work. Do they just stitch? They actually do some really cool things. The wings of these butterflies actually cut out, but the centers of those bodies there stay attached so the wings can lift. Then all of these cute dashed lines that you see throughout this whole die are stitches. So if I bring in, I think it might show really well on this card. If I bring in this piece of art that you see on the blog today, you can see some of those fun stitches as I move that a little bit. And you might be noticing there are a lot of colors happening here on this card. This card is actually pretty much the exact same card as this one, just in a couple of different colors. And I'm going to show you how to make that work. Then I also want to point out this one, this card and this card you can see in our July-August catalog. And I'm just going to lift those wings so you can see exactly how fun those wings are and that they do stay connected right in the middle. Now, if you look at this card, you can probably tell that we cut this die out of white cardstock or white daisy cardstock, but you may also be noticing that there are some other little pieces here. We also cut the same die cut out of our denim paper from our mix-in this catalog, as well as a couple of colors of cardstock. And you can see that some of those we paper pieced right into the inside and others we put behind so that you're seeing lots of color happening on this card. On these two cards, what we did was cut the denim paper, and then we also cut it out of the white daisy paper. We took our scissors, and I'm going to show you this in just a second, snipped the parts of those butterflies that were still connected, and so that we actually had a butterfly that was no longer connected to the white daisy paper, and we just attached them right there in their centers on top of the denim paper, so that we got some really great contrast with the butterflies. So now that you've seen that kind of close up, let's go and see how that works. All right, I'm going to just pull in a few things that I've cut for you. I've cut this die out of our denim paper, which, by the way, is one of my favorite all-time papers, this denim that's in our mix-in. We've also cut it out of a piece of our ballerina cardstock and some wisteria cardstock. And so all of these could go on a card front. But what I did as I cut each of those is I started saving the leftover pieces, and this will make a lot more sense when I show it to you and cut it. So those pieces that fell out of these two pieces, I just started saving them. So if I were creating a card with this ballerina, I could add some of those pieces in a different color so that you can see how they would fit together and create the look that we have going on here on this card, where we've paper pieced some of the fallouts there. So as you cut this die in different colors, it'd be smart to keep some of those pieces so that as you continue to create art with it, you can easily be able to paper piece. Now let me show you a few hints and tips for cutting this die. You can probably tell that this die is quite intricate, can't you? So I'm going to just pull in a piece of White Daisy cardstock, which is one of my all-time favorite things to use it close to my heart. It's got a really slick finish and it makes ink colors stand out beautifully, and journaling and anything that you're making with White Daisy. So I'm going to grab my platform and my cutting mat and put my White Daisy cardstock on there. I'm also going to put my die cut down, face down on there. And then I'm even going to add a couple more pieces of cardstock just to create a little more pressure. And one of the nice things about the machine that I'm using, this is the Close to My Heart die cutting machine, and it's awesome because over here on the side there's a dial, 2 dials actually, that can help you loosen or tighten pressure. And whenever you're cutting a really intricate die cut, you want to put just a little more pressure there. So I'm going to take my machine and just make it a little tighter so that when it goes through, it will cut it really nicely. Put this platform right on the top and start working it through. And as I cut, I think I put a little too much pressure. I'm just going to take a little of that pressure off. There we go. I'm just going to work that through. It's a little more work because there's a little more pressure. And then I will be cutting that white die that we wanted to see. And then I'm going to show you how to add those white butterfly wings to another piece. So I've gotten that through my die cutting machine. Here and pull out our die cut piece. And you can see, once I turn that over, how beautifully that cut. Just really amazing. Not all die cutting machines can you adjust the pressure, which is when you for sure would want to add in these extra little pieces of cardstock to create a little more pressure as you run it through. Now what I'm going to do is take my scissors, and you can see I have all those fun little pieces left over I was talking to you about that I could add to my fun craft jar full of colored pieces so that I could paper piece that maybe into a colored one. But what I want to show you here is I'm going to grab my scissors and take these little white butterflies that we just cut and make a couple of tiny little cuts where they're being held to the die so that I can pull that right out, and I could easily just add that right here to the top of that one. And you could glue it all the way to those wings, or you could just do the center so that you get a butterfly with double wings here like this. Let's go over close up and you can see how that created 2 sets of wings. So as I put that on top, I could lift those wings and you can see that there's 2 of those. Especially if I add a little bit of color behind here, I think you'll be able to see even better. Look how beautiful that would be, even just with this ballerina pink piece of cardstock behind it and the white butterflies on top of these cute denim butterflies so that both sets of wings are lifted there. So there are so many fun ways that you can use this standalone die. You can create the kinds of cards that I showed you. You could even snip those butterflies off and add them to a scrapbook page. The possibilities really are endless. And Close to My Heart makes beautiful, high quality dies that create a beautiful effect every single time.